Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to another tank review, this time having a look at the Tier 5 premium Russian tank destroyer, the SU-85I. As ever, just a little bit of history for you. This originated, originally, there were far too many uses of the word original and its derivatives there, but never mind, as a project to take a bunch of captured Panzer III hulls and repurpose them for Soviet use. So what they did was they took the Panzer III hull, they slapped a superstructure on top, and they had a 76mm gun poking out the front, and you had the SU-85I. Hurrah! As the war progressed, the 76mm gun on the tank was generally considered to be a bit naff, and so there were ideas to play around with it and replace that 76mm gun with an 85mm gun, and that is the SU-85I. So it's essentially a Panzer III chassis, superstructure slapped on top, and a 85mm gun poking out the front. For those people going Soviet tank, Panzer III chassis, yeah, they captured them. It's not that troublesome or difficult to try and get your head around. It was just captured. It's not as if the Soviets were producing Panzer IIIs for this purpose. Anyway, what is it that we get in game? Well, this is a Tier 5 premium tank, so there is no grind for it or anything like that. If you have a look at the tech tree, you are looking at a cost of... It's not in the regular tech tree, what am I talking about? You are looking at a cost of 2,300 gold, give or take. It's not a colossally expensive machine, it is only Tier 5. So what is it that you actually get? Well, we're going to talk more about the gun in a bit, so I'm not going to dwell on that for now. 380 hit points for a Tier 5 tank destroyer is there or thereabouts. You know, it's about what you'd expect. 350 seems to be about par for the course, so 380 is slightly higher than that, but it's still not more than a couple of hits worth of damage. Hull armor, 60, 30, 50. We'll talk more about this shortly. I don't want to dwell on it because the armor on this tank is not particularly good. Mobility, it's got a 13 horsepower to ton specific power, which is a bit meh. This thing, it's fast enough to get around to where it generally needs to go on the battlefield, but don't expect to outpace any of your competition. Traverse speed on the tank at 50 degrees per second isn't too bad, however. Bear in mind, however, the real traverse speed is a combination of a bunch of different factors. Camouflage values on the tank, not bad. It is a Tier 5 tank destroyer at the end of the day. View range, 330 meters, is god-awful. So bear that in mind. 548 meter signal range is also not particularly good, but then it is only Tier 5, and so that's actually not too bad. To put it in some sort of context, Tier 5 tanks tend to have around the 350 meter view range mark. 330, well, it is a tank destroyer, I guess, but 330 is still rather on the low side. So let's have a quick look at the gun. 85mm gun, D5S85A, 13.3 rounds a minute, 119 penetration, 161 with premium ammunition, 160 alpha. The HE rounds are 43 pen and 280 alpha damage respectively. A pretty disappointing 0.42 dispersion at 100 meters, and a 2.3 second aim time. This gun, if you combine the alpha damage and the rate of fire, you actually get very, very respectable DPM. With my setup, and this is just with a gun rammer without the crew put in, you're looking at around about 2,500 damage per minute, only at Tier 5. That's a lot. There are Tier 8 tanks that wish they could do that. I mean, in fact, if you look in the background at the moment, we've got the Sabaton tank over here. And those wonderful voice actors, and that wishes it could do 2,500 DPM. And you might be looking at it going, yeah, but the accuracy's garbage, the penetration's... that looks like a horrible gun. The one thing you have to remember with this tank is it gets preferential matchmaking. So you do not see Tier 7 games, you see Tier 5 games and Tier 6 games. And with that in mind, a gun you might want to compare it to is the gun that you find on the Stug 4. Yeah, I could bring up the stats and compare it directly, but I can't be bothered at the moment because I'm a special snowflake. So here we go. This is the gun on the Stug 4. The Soviet gun is larger caliber, okay, it doesn't fire as fast, has higher penetration, higher alpha damage, not as accurate, worse aim time. The two guns are probably roughly comparable in their own individual special ways. And off the top of my head, I think they are the only two premium or limited matchmaking tank destroyers at tier 5 in the game. So, just back to the SU then. So the gun has very high DPM. 160 alpha damage for the tier is perfectly decent. It's better than things like the Stug 3 with the long 75mm gun on that tank. 5 degrees of gun depression, not fantastic. 25 degrees of gun elevation is very good. Not relevant a lot of the time, but can occasionally be useful to bear in mind. 10 degrees of traverse either way is okay, but nothing too special. In terms of ammo loadout and whatnot, I have 5 rounds of high explosive, 10 rounds of APCR and 43 rounds of armor piercing. Most of the time the armor piercing is fine, but for some of the more heavily armored tanks you really want to get their sides and rear. To be honest, a lot of the time, if you're struggling to penetrate them with 119 pen, 161, it's not super high. It's probably not going to help all that much. I mean, most of the time an OI, for example, if you come across one frontally, will still giggle at it. You have a chance of penetrating it with your premium rounds, but it's not the best. You'd be better off getting flanking shots. I've got your standard 3 consumables, gun rammer on mine. Any other bits of kit you could use? Well, of course, you could use vents. I'm not, but you could. I use a camo net just for a bit more sneaky, and binocular telescopes. I do not recommend coated optics because an extra 10% of horrible is still garbage. Binos, however, can actually give you some meaningful spotting, obviously only when you're stationary. Apart from that, I guess you could go for an enhanced gun laying drive. Up to you. Crew skills, well, this is a premium tank. You don't really want to have a crew specifically decked out for this tank. If you did, however, you'd want to focus on Sixth Sense and Camouflage as your skills of choice. With all that said and done, we'll have a quick look at the armor profile of this tank, and then I'll show you some gameplay. Here we are then, just before we talk about the armor, to mention that you have, of course, the engine mounted in the rear of this tank, not a huge surprise, and just below the rear of the superstructure, this is where you find the ammo rack, both sides, so just be wary of that. I've not found the ammo rack on this tank to be a massive problem, but yeah, just be aware of where it is. So, armor-wise, on the rear of the tank, what armor? There isn't any. On the side of the tank, what armor? There isn't any. What about on the front of the tank? The thickest your armor's gonna get is around about 60mm. Interestingly, the commander's hatch here is actually the strongest bit of armor, excluding the gun mantlet. It's the strongest bit of armor on the tank. So you don't really want to shoot it unless you really have to. If you are shooting this commander's hatch thing, if you shoot the top section of it rather than this central band, shoot the top section of it, and that is decidedly thinner and easier to penetrate. So you don't want to shoot this band, you want to shoot just up here. But honestly, the front of this tank, the armor is not particularly impressive. Around the gun mantlet, you obviously have a hole where they have the gun in, so your effective armor there is just the gun mantlet, which is 60mm. Other bits of the tank, 120, 180, sorry, other bits of the gun mantlet, it's not that impressive. Treat this tank as if it has no armor and you won't be disappointed. Here we go, first of 2 games for you, Tier 5 match to begin with then. We're here on El Haluf. As I mentioned, it's a Tier 5 game, so we are top tier. In this sort of situation, you shouldn't really expect your gun to have too many problems penetrating the targets. Hitting them, however, is an entirely different story. The accuracy on this gun is just plain bad. We're a tank destroyer, it's Tier 5, so we're not really going to be playing this too aggressively. More playing the support pew 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 role, which further exacerbates the god-awful accuracy on this tank, which is a bit of an issue. Nonetheless, are they trying to boost up there? Oh, for pity's sake. Nonetheless, I've decided I'm not going to go where I was originally set up because no one was doing any spotting. I mean, this is a Tier 5 match. Your teammates are... what's the phrase I'm looking for? Let's go with inexperienced. Yes, let's go with that. There's also a failed platoon on the enemy team and on our team. Bearing in mind this is a patch 9.17 game, so failed platoons were still a thing. which is why we have an 81 and a cruiser on our team, and they have a Tetrarch on theirs. Yay! Their fail platoon isn't as bad, because at least it's a tier 2 platooned up with a tier 3, rather than a pair of tier 2s tuned up with a tier 4. Although the 81's now dead, so go figure. Anyway, whinging over, just seeing if we can get any spots, or not spots, sorry, if anyone has spotted any of these guys and if we can shoot them. Just a point to note, by the way, ooh, Type 95. Just a point to note, in a moment, and you can see how quickly tier 4 tanks died to the DPM of this gun, and yes, I know he did take another hit from someone else. You can see on the minimap that even stationary with my binos up, I'm still not hitting view range cap. So that's something you do want to be aware of. Tetrarch is being perhaps a little bit optimistic. Although I do take a hit for my troubles there from an M8A1. There's another hit. Bounce that one. So the armour does occasionally work against lower penetration guns from a distance. And we have actually managed to bounce some shots there. Let's just see where we bounce them. Gun mantlet. Couple of penetrations through the main hull. The bounces have come from the gun mantlet. So that's where your armour really is. So it's not as if the armour on this tank is completely useless. You shouldn't really play as if you have any. We're up to 2 kills, by the way, which isn't too shabby. We know there's an M8A1 out there somewhere, because he was the one going pew 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 at us. Speaking of the M8A1, we'll take the shot there, and we're rewarded with damage. Booyah. Try again. Probably not going to get the kill for this, but I thought it was worth a go. Nah. Oh well, we got lucky once, I'm not going to complain too much. Anyone else? Oh, critical hit on the M8A1. OI experimental, get rid of him. No, the M8 is already done, so that's fine. If you have a look at the minimap, you might have noticed there's a Swedish medium tank, by the way, who's come up to our side of the ridgeline and is slowly eating our artillery. I say slowly, it's not that slow. The guy packs an autoloader, for goodness sake. Oh no, this is a tier 5 one, not the tier 6. Sorry, ignore me, he doesn't pack an autoloader. I'm talking out of my bottom. T-67, SU-85I spotted over on the enemy side of the map. IKV-72. But I'm worried about this Swedish medium tank. Don't want him just eating our artillery and then eating me. That would be suboptimal. And it's entirely possible that that could happen, so we're just trying to be a little cautious here. And shoot the guy as and when he turns up, assuming that he does. And yes, I'm foregoing shots over on people on the other ridge line, but I'm pretty sure my team's probably got them. And I just want to be sure that this guy isn't going to give us undue problems. Speaking of the fellow, there he is. He's on full health. I penetrate my first shot. He bounces his. His tank doesn't have particularly great gun depression. And bearing in mind that we have comparable alpha damage, I managed to get in 3 shots in the time in which he gets in 2. There we go. Over 1,000 damage done at this point. STRV, ooh, we bounced some looks off of our badass rear armour. He's going for our artillery, just seeing if we can get a shot in the wazoo of him. That would be nice. And once again, our armour did a little bit of good work there, of course. It's this guy, and the looks are remaining, and we execute the Swede. The looks is dead. And that just leaves the T-34 away on the other side of the map. We're unlikely to get over there to do anything unless he's a plonker and pokes himself out from around somewhere where he is safe. But it appears that isn't really going to happen. Right up until the point when he does, and the gun misses anyway. Given how the guns performed throughout this match, though, I can't really complain too far. Can we pick up this shot? Come on, there we go. 5th kill successfully secured, 6 damage into it, and that is the match. So let's see how well we did. First class mastery, fighter, shell-proof. I was surprised to get that. No, unbreakable, sorry, or shell, whatever it's called, and fire for effect. Finished second on our team by experience. 1,088 damage done, was the most damage done by anyone on our team. 5 kills, 711 base experience, 16 shots fired, 11 hits, 10 penetrations for that damage count. Most of which was from relatively long range. 8 hits received, 3 penetrated, 5 did not, so your armour can be useful from time to time, but again, you shouldn't rely on it. 386 damage blocked by our armour. 6 enemy vehicles damaged, 5 of them destroyed, 27,000 credit profit with a premium account. Not too shabby. That, of course, was when we were top tier. Let's go and have a look at a bottom tier game now. Tier 6 match time then, and we are here on Fisherman's Bay. The map's okay. We'll see how this match ends up going in the end. Having a quick look at the enemy team, I do tend to like to look to see if there's anyone whose armour's going to give us any serious problems. The answer appears to be no. Their top tier heavy tank is a TOG 2, which it has a lot of hit points, but it doesn't have much in the way of armour. Matilda, okay, yes, the Matilda does have formidable armour, but when you're up to 120 pen, it shouldn't be too difficult to go through it. And everyone else is pretty lightly armoured. So I'm not expecting colossal difficulties penetrating the targets, provided the shells actually go vaguely where we aim them, and that tends to be more of the problem with this gun. Coming over to the 1 and 2 lines, I'm in a fragile tank destroyer, so go figure. And I'm actually going to do a bit of spotting myself, because it doesn't look like my team is particularly interested in doing it themselves, so yeah, let's see what we can see. Binos up. Nope, no one yet. And for anybody who finds this a little bit boring, I mean, well, this is your kind of bread and butter tank destroyer style gameplay, if we're going to be honest. So if you find it dull, I don't recommend buying tank destroyers in general, or at least not the more fragile kind. And whilst this thing does have a little bit of armour, as I said in the previous replay, it's not the sort of armour you want to be relying upon. So, we finally have some targets. T28, big, fat, softly armoured target, and there goes half his health in one shot, because he's only tier 4, bless him. Go for a blind shot, no idea if that hit or not. Cromwell now. Now we take that shot, which could have been a mistake, because we did actually spot one of the enemies. If we spotted them, there's a good chance that firing the gun would have them spot us. But as it is, we are able to execute the T67 and pull back to safety. Going up once again, binos up. There we go, and there's a Panzer IV-H. Now it's entirely possible at tier 5 my view range is better than theirs, so it's entirely possible that by pulling the trigger here I wouldn't actually get myself spotted, but I decide to play it safe. I'm happy just to pick up some assistance damage on that fellow. That's a perfectly good outcome as far as I'm concerned. Stug 3G appears to be pushing up. Our heavy tanks have successfully pushed through the town. Perhaps not too surprising, given that the only heavy tank on the enemy team was a TOG 2, and our Stug gets eradicated by the enemy IKV-65-2. Oh dear. And thus we are stuck sitting here. Spotted M7. And, ooh, that bit of foliage there gave me a double push opportunity, so we take it. And then take advantage of the rate of fire to execute the Cromwell before pulling back to relative safety. Worth pointing out, by the way, that we've only done 496 damage, but that is still more damage than we have hit points, which is a nice start, and we've got over 1,000 assistance damage so far. Just because you're in a tank destroyer doesn't mean you can't do a little bit of spotting here and there. In a gross display of irony as well, the TOG 2 successfully kills our KV-2, which is a bit of a shame. I'm sure the KV would have loved instead to have gone derp and taken off half his health with one shot. Panzer IV-H is behind this rock. Our T67 has advanced to the aforementioned rock. And, oh, IKV-103, yes, no. Nope, he doesn't seem interested in coming forward to play. That's a bit of a shame. It would have been really nice to be able to put a shot or so into him. Having said that, oh, there's the T28 again. Wait for it to aim, wait for it to aim, put a shot in, and someone else, our SU-100, finishes him off. AMX ELC, nah, that's never gonna happen. It's a tiny target, it's relatively mobile. This was patch 9.17 before they rebalanced all the light tanks, remember, so this was still the fast ELC. And this gun is kind of derpy, so I don't think that's ever gonna work. Now, looking at the scoreline, we are actually winning this as a team, 8 kills to 4. So, with that in mind, and the fact that I'm getting bored, I think we're probably just going to push this at some point soon. Come on, when do I get bored? It must happen at some point, right? I never have the patience to just sit in a bush. SU-100 goes to deal with the Panzer IV-H, and yeah. Ooh, Matilda. Can we eat the Tilly? Come on. Come on. 10-5. There's only 5 of them left at this point. Let's try and get stuck in and get some more damage done. There's the Matilda. No shot, so nuts to that. Only got 5 degrees of gun depression here, remember, so it's not as if we can be that effective poking our gun over ridge lines. The Matilda is getting absolutely throttled as we lose our KV-1, unfortunately. There's the IKV-65. And they're basically all in this little corner now. So let's see what we can do. We do lose our KV-1 and our SU-100. Bit of a shame. IKV. Good night, sweet prince. We get spotted, which is annoying, but hopefully not the end of the world. We also get some more assistance damage on that Hell Kitty. ELC is doing ELC things. Nah, that was unlikely to hit. And there's the Matilda. He's still alive. Oh, well, not for long. T-67 takes him out. And that leaves us trying to chase down an ELC. Someone cue the Benny Hill theme. I'm not going to play it, but we're just going to see if we can find this guy, kill him. There he is. He takes out our T-67. And eventually I decide, you know what, screw chasing him down. Not interested whatsoever. We're just going to go in the capture circle. If he wants to keep running, he can keep running. I do not care. And there we go. That is the match completed with a base cap. Because chasing down an ELC at the end of the game cannot be bothered. So once again, let's go and see how well we did in this bottom tier game. Remembering, of course, that the SU-85I gets limited matchmaking. Here we go then. First class mastery, spotter, and fire for effect. Finished top of our team, 752 damage done, 3 kills, 889 base experience. So interestingly there, for a tank destroyer, we didn't actually do all that much damage. I mean, we did some, and we did more damage than we had hit points, which is always nice. But it wasn't obscene amounts of damage. 10 shots fired, 7 hits, 7 pens, no one shot at us, 5 enemy vehicles damaged, 3 of them destroyed, 1642 assistance damage though. Tank destroyers can still do some spotting when you want to. 40 base capture points and a 42,000 credit profit with a premium account. So that ended up being a pretty nice game there for the SU-85I as well. We're going to go and jump back into the garage then, and we'll round things off. So, the SU-85I, how does it fare overall? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. The gun can be frustrating, but on the flip side, when it does hit, you can rack up the damage pretty quickly with that DPM. The tank does get limited matchmaking, which forgives a number of its sins, which is good, because there are quite a few sins. The mobility isn't great. The gun is alright, all things considered, but nothing particularly special. It takes 4 crew, so you can use it as a crew trainer for your Soviet tank destroyer crews, in particular for the second Soviet tank destroyer line, the one that culminates in the Object 263. Just up here, wherever it's gone, there we go. The Object 268 line tend to get more crews in their machines though, so it's not as good a crew trainer for them. It's only tier 5, so it's a nice little crew trainer, and it's pretty cheap. If you are considering picking this up, as ever, I would always recommend do so when there's some sort of offer going on or discount available. It's an alright tank. It's not fantastic. It's not complete garbage. It's alright. There isn't really much else to say about this thing. I mean, how have I performed in it? Let's have a quick look. Bearing in mind I don't take this tank too seriously. 76 battles, 51% win rate, 2.31 damage ratio, 2.3 destruction ratio, marks of excellence, we're up to 54.92%. I think I owned this tank before they started marks of excellence, although I could be wrong. Yeah, it's alright. It's certainly not a terrible tank. If you don't like tank destroyers, you shouldn't be interested in picking it up anyway, but that's kind of stating the obvious. So who should it appeal to? I guess if you like your Soviet tank destroyers, perhaps in particular that second Soviet tank destroyer line, because the crew fits a little bit better, and you're looking for a crew trainer that will make some money as well, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, here you go. SU-85I is a perfectly decent pick. If you don't fall into that category, by not buying it, you're not really missing all that much. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that review, possibly found it vaguely informative. If you did, by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.